So we'll start off. So you feel free to stop me at any point of time. Any doubt and okay, you can stop. Then if you want me to repeat something, I can do that. No problem. Stop me at any point of time if you did not understand a concept. So we'll start off with how do organisms reproduce. We have only 2 chapters to study in biology: how do organisms reproduce and obviously heredity. And how do organisms reproduce? We can divide the main chapter into basically 3 things. Why organisms? Why? What exactly is reproduction? That is the first thing. What is reproduction? Why reproduction is important? And third thing, how organisms reproduce. Okay. So what is reproduction? What is reproduction is the production of new individuals. So how are the new individuals going to be created? They are going to be created in multiple ways. It can be asexual or it can be sexual. See, the new individuals are going to be of the same kind. Human beings can reproduce. Yes.
Ma'am, ഞാൻ 8:30 ആകുമ്പോൾ പോകും. എനിക്കിന്ന് സ്കൂളുണ്ട്.
All right. So new individuals are going to be of the same kind, and they are going to be like donkeys are going to create donkeys itself, monkeys are going to create monkeys itself. So what is reproduction? Reproduction is a production of new individuals of the same kind. Now, why is reproduction important? Reproduction is important. Is it important for individuals? Why is reproduction important? Is it important for individuals? It is not important for individuals. It is not important for individuals. It is important as far as species is concerned. It is important for species. Why? Species has to continue. Species continue cheyidu poganam. First reason on why reproduction is important is species continuation. Okay. Second reason on why reproduction is important is because of the variations. Variations are required in order to have evolution. See, you are seeing what is evolution? You are seeing multiple varieties of organisms out there. Right? There are a lot of manga is there, chakka is there, coconut is there, mango is there, banana is there, we are there, madhav is there, hema is there, mansvi is there. There are a lot of varieties. No, how have all these varieties come about? Because of the evolutions, because of the variations which are there. We are going to study in detail about the variations, of course. So what all did we study? We studied what is reproduction. Reproduction is the production of new individuals of the same kind, and it is required to maintain generation. It is required to maintain generations. Okay. And the second thing that we studied is why organisms reproduce. As far as individuals are concerned, reproduction is not important, but for species, reproduction is important. Second reason on why reproduction is required is because we need variations. Only then the evolution can advance. Only then the evolution can advance. Okay. Now we are going to the fundamentals of this chapter, which is how do organisms reproduce. So before actually going on to the chapter as to how do organisms reproduce, we have to understand our body. How did Abhirami get such a black hair? How did Adulya get such a beautiful smile? Because we have a lot of things. No, inside the body there are some things which actually design our body. So what is it which designs our body? What is it which designs our body? Of course, a blueprint of our body is what? Blueprint of our body is DNA. So your body's design is encoded in every cell of your body. Each and every million cell of your body has a blueprint of your own body. So what happens? Inside a cell there is nucleus. Inside a cell there is nucleus. Inside the nucleus there is chromosome. So chromosome is made up of DNA. Chromosome is made up of DNA. Madhu, did you understand? In the Mogan Chulinye Manslaya? All right. Okay. Cell has nucleus. Nucleus has chromosome, and chromosome is made up of DNA. All right. And what is a gene then? See, DNA is like a very simple, it's like a long thread. Okay, DNA is like a long thread. See, this particular piece of the DNA which codes for a protein, say for example your eye color is coded by this particular segment of DNA, that is known as a gene. Okay, say this particular piece is going to code for your hair color. Okay, the protein which actually influences your hair color, this is another gene which is there. So these are the functional segments which are there. These are the functional segments. So DNA's functional segment is known as gene. Okay, the portion of the DNA which is going to code for a particular protein is known as a gene. So coming again, your body design, your body is entirely made up of proteins. Now there are other factors as well, but majorly it is made up of proteins. Now who is going to make proteins? DNA is going to make proteins. So obviously, see, what is the full form of DNA? You have to study the full form of DNA as well. Okay, deoxyribonucleic acid. Okay, in case you feel that you are not getting some portion, you focus on that and make sure that it is right. That's it. You have to memorize things. You have to by heart it and say that out aloud. അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് കോൺഫിഡൻസ് ഉണ്ടാവുള്ളൂ. All right. So deoxyribonucleic acid. Say there is some change in DNA. Okay, say there is some change in DNA, obviously the proteins are going to change. In case, see, my DNA of eye color is different, which means the eye color, the protein which comes out is different. So obviously in the body it is reflected as a different eye color. Hari's eye color is not my eye color. That is because the proteins are different. That is because the DNA is different. Okay, so now we have understood about the body design. We have to understand the body design. Why? Because when we reproduce, we are creating a new body. We are going to design a new body. How is this particular designing done? That we have to understand. That is a fundamentals of reproduction, right? So now, what does any kind of reproduction, what does it involve? It involves, obviously, this is a cell, this is a nucleus, and there are a lot of DNAs which are there. First thing which has to happen is this DNA has to be duplicated. DNA obviously has to be duplicated, right? And it has to be separated. Okay, it has to be separated. Okay, so one of them is going to get a yellow one, the other one is going to get a red one. All right, see, so tell me something, is DNA the only thing which needs to be duplicated? No, DNA is not the only thing which needs to be duplicated. All the other apparatus like endoplasmic reticulum is there, Golgi bodies are there, mitochondria is there, everything has to be duplicated and supplied to the daughter cell, right? So there are multiple processes which are involved in the reproduction. First one obviously is going to be the DNA copying and separation. Second one is going to be the cellular apparatus duplication and supplying it to the daughter cells. Okay, now coming to DNA copy. Okay, what we have to understand is DNA copying. One copy is over here in the main parent. Okay, this has to be copied. This is a photocopying thing. We don't have a machine over there. It is not automated. This is a what kind of process? Biochemical process. This is a what process? Biochemical process. There are lots and lots of chemicals and hormones involved in this particular process. So none of the biochemical process is a foolproof mechanism. None of the biochemical process is a foolproof mechanism. So it is not entirely reliable. We can't say that 100% this is accurate. We can't say that. So obviously it is not 100% reliable. So what happens? There will be minor variations. Minor variations will be there. So this particular thing is there when a particular copy is created. Say one particular portion has changed. Now this is going to be a variation. This is going to slightly create subtle changes inside the body. All right, so this is variation. Okay, now this is going to create a subtle change. Variation can be small. If it is small, then it can survive. But sometimes what happens is that the variation may be very drastic. Very drastic variations can also be created. But in that particular case, the variation is not going to work. Variation will not work and the cell is going to die. All right, so why this variation is very important? See, importance of variation is that, see, both cases are there. One is inheritance, another is variation. Inheritance is whatever characteristic is there in the parent, that is going to be transmitted to the offspring. Second is that whatever characteristic is not present in the parent, because of some, biochemical issues, a small variation, a change is created from the parent. See, inheritance is important as well as variation is important. So we are discussing about why variation is important. Variation is going to help survive the species or organism. Okay, I'll tell you with an example, the story of bacteria. What is the story of bacteria? Say a lot of bacteria have been living very happily in a pool. So what happened was, one day the pool became very hot. So because of some kind of variation, what happened? One of the bacteria, one or a few of the bacteria, 5 or 6 of the bacteria has got a variation saying that, they are able to survive better in a high temperature. Okay, our temperature കൂടുമ്പോൾ നന്നായിട്ട് survive ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റുന്നുണ്ട്. They got a variation. Okay. So as long as the pool is, very happy, springtime, every bacteria is like, okay, there are no heroes in us, all of us are equal, and they are living very happily. Now, one day what happened? One day it was extremely hot. Now what happens? Most of the bacteria are going to die. Only the bacteria which have the variation which allows them to survive in the high temperature, that is going to survive. Right? So only because of this particular survival, the species is going to survive. Otherwise, what happened? This particular variation, consider that particular variation is not there in the bacteria. What is going to happen? All the bacteria are going to be dead. And then what happens if all the bacteria die? All the organisms which depend on the bacteria die. All the organisms which depend on the organisms which depend on the bacteria die. All the organisms which depend on the organisms which depend on the organisms which depend on the bacteria also die, and ultimately we also die. Right? See, it is very important that every species survives, right? So this particular variation helps the species. Say, tell me something. In case the temperature is never going to increase, then there is no meaning in variation. It doesn't mean that all the variations are, exhibited well. Okay, exhibited during the lifetime of the bacteria itself. Okay, maybe their daughter take advantage of this particular variation, because this variation is going to be passed from the parent to the child and child to the granddaughter and all those things. So the variation can be exhibited. They can take the advantage of variation maybe in another lifetime. That's it. Okay. So it helps the survival of the species. Another point that I want to mention is, this variation may not be extremely beneficial for the individual asset, but it is extremely beneficial for the species. It helps adapt the species better to the environment. It helps the species to adapt better to the environment. Are you all clear with that? Okay. And the second point about the variation is that this is a basis of evolution. Evolution full basis of small variations accumulate new organism itself is going to be created. Okay, now coming to the inheritance. Okay, so we discussed about the variation part. We told that variation is very important. Now reproduction is linked to the stability of the population of the species. What does it mean? See, population, any kind of population, human beings, say for example, bacteria, say for example, in an ecosystem, this has a particular well-defined place. Okay, population, like in what climate they are going to survive, in what kind of food they are taking, everything together is known as the niche. Okay, N-I-C-H-E. So every organism occupies a special position in the ecosystem. Okay, now what happens? A human being is there. Okay, this human being, with all its DNA copying and cellular apparatus copying and everything, produces an organism which is extremely similar to itself with the same body design. Same body design. Only if the same body design is there, can it go ahead and occupy the same niche. Is it true or not? If I am producing an entirely different one, say this is an entirely different kind of body pattern a human being is created. Okay, a human being has created something entirely different. What space is it going to occupy in this ecosystem? Now a new niche has to be created. Is it right or wrong? You got the point? So only because the DNA copying is consistent, body design is consistent, the organisms are going to occupy a particular position in the niche. Okay, so this particular ecosystem, if you see, say this particular region is occupied by the humans. humans. This is not an actual place. This is like a what do you say, a position which is given to the humans. This is given for the bacteria. Okay, so the bacteria is going to produce the same body design which enables it to occupy this particular niche itself. Okay, thus stabilizing the population. This particular bacteria is going to reproduce and it ultimately stabilizes the population of the bacteria. All right, so reproduction is linked to the stability of the population. The population, every kind of population is going to occupy a specific niche. So the DNA copying is going to be consistent. Very few variations are going to be there. All right. Since the DNA copying is consistent, body design is consistent. And since the body design is consistent, it can go ahead and occupy the same niche. It can go ahead and occupy the same niche. In case it is completely different, say I have created a totally different kind of human being, then a new niche has to be created and the population wouldn't be able to be maintained. Right, so all these complications are going to arise if the DNA copying was not proper. So this is the importance of inheritance. Inheritance means DNA is getting copied in the exact right manner without much variations. Now we are coming to the main thing, which is how organisms reproduce. So there are two kinds of reproduction which you already know. Major classification as to asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, of course, is going to be uniparental, only one parent is involved, and sexual reproduction, of course, is going to be biparental. And in asexual reproduction, somatic cells are involved. What is meant by somatic cells? There are two kinds of cells. Okay, you can say that as somatic cells, and as far as plants are concerned, we can say that as vegetative cells as well, somatic or vegetative cells. Okay, reproductive cells are there, and those cells which does not directly take part in reproduction, they are known as somatic cells. Reproductive cells are there as well as vegetative cells are there. Vegetative cells are there. Vegetative or somatic cells are there. So in asexual reproduction, there is no concept of reproductive cells. Somatic cells are involved. Whereas in the case of sexual reproduction, germ cells are going to be involved. Okay, so this asexual reproduction they generally involves production of asexual spores, wherein sexual reproduction involves the production of gametes. Okay, reproductive gametes. Male gametes are there and female gametes are there. Okay, and asexual reproduction, the most important thing is the offsprings are genetically similar to the parent, genetically very much similar to the parent. Variations are very less as far as asexual reproduction is concerned. Whereas in sexual reproduction, they are genetically different from, genetically dissimilar to the parent. No, in sexual reproduction, you can't be exact replica of your parent. You cannot be exact replica of your parent. Okay, and in asexual reproduction, the rate of reproduction is extremely fast. Why? Because if a bacteria comes, it can reproduce in like 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, extremely fast. Whereas in sexual reproduction, you know, humans, right? They have to carry you for 40 weeks. So that is the time. So rate of reproduction is extremely slow as far as sexual reproduction is concerned. Now coming to asexual reproduction, we have already discussed that there are two modes of reproduction, asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction. So in asexual reproduction, there are multiple methods of asexual reproduction. Okay, can you write down what are the multiple methods of asexual reproduction? Just write it down. Main modes of reproduction. Well, I just want you to write the names. Okay. So what are they? Fission is there. Fission is there. Budding is there. Fragmentation is there. Spore formation is there. Vegetative propagation is there. Did you write regeneration as a main mode of asexual reproduction? Regeneration is not a main mode of asexual reproduction. It is accidental reproduction. So even when they ask for 5 marks to write 5 different type of asexual reproduction, don't write regeneration. Okay, don't write it is risky to write regeneration. Sometimes you may get marked, but it is not a main mode of asexual reproduction. Okay, so fission. What is fission? First, see, most of you are getting confused with examples. Okay, I want you to write in a separate book as to what are the examples of fission, what are the examples of budding, and learn it by heart. These are the things which are supposed to be, memorized. Okay, so you have to memorize it. There is no other go. Now coming again, Amma. Okay, fission. So coming to fission, generally fission happens in unicellular organisms. Okay, so this is a simple cell division which is going to happen. Cell division which is going to happen. The diagram is very important. When somebody asks you about fission, you have to draw this diagram. Very important. So consider an amoeba. What happens? Amoeba is first going to divide its nucleus. Only after nuclear division they are going to see. There was a multiple choice question, I think 2 or 3 years back. They had given the sequence. They had given the sequence of nuclear division and then cytoplasmic division. You had to choose the right sequence. Okay, it was actually complicated question. If I get it, I will share it out. So the first nucleus is going to divide, then cytoplasm is going to divide, and 2 daughter cells are going to be formed. So in case amoebic fission is going to be asked, or amoeba's reproduction is going to be asked, you have to draw this particular diagram. So in fission, amoeba is the most common example. See, amoeba can actually divide in any plane. Amoeba can divide in any plane. But if you see organisms like leishmania, which causes kala azar, they can divide only along one plane, okay, it can divide only in this particular plane. This is single plane fission. Okay, and another thing is that leishmania is going to create the cause a disease of kala azar. That also is very important because it is given in the textbook. So another kind of fission is there, which is multiple fission. Multiple fission example, again you can write amoeba, no issues. Plasmodium is also an example. So what happens? This generally it happens during multiple fission. Generally happens during unfavorable conditions. What happens is that during unfavorable condition, the organism recognizes that the condition around it is unfavorable. Then it kind of forms a cyst around it. Okay, and inside the cyst, inside the cell, what happens? The nucleus is going to divide and divide and divide and divide. Okay, and multiple nucleus is going to be created. As long as the unfavorable condition is there, this nucleus keeps on dividing. So when the condition is favorable, the cyst is going to break and the nucleus are going to really get released with a bit of cytoplasm around it. All the nucleus are going to get released with a bit of cytoplasm around it. So the number of organism is going to be equivalent to the number of nucleus which is formed inside. Okay, so this generally happens during. Why do you think there are so many organisms which are produced? Then why don't organisms adapt this particular kind of thing? See, why so many organisms are going to be produced is organism already understood that there is some kind of unfavorable situation which is going around it, right? So the chances that the daughters are going to die off is very high. So that is why it is going to create a lot of daughters, so that even if a few dies off, the others are going to survive. So this is regarding the fission. So you have multiplanar fission or single plane fission, or we have multiple fission. Okay, and okay, and you have to learn the examples as well. Amoeba, leishmania, bacteria generally divides like this. Protozoa generally divides like this. Plasmodium divides like this. Coming to the second way of reproduction, which is asexual reproduction, which is the budding. Budding, most common example is yeast and hydra. Hydra you are going to study in regeneration as well. But the main mode of reproduction in hydra is budding. Main mode is budding. So don't get confused. Do not write main mode of reproduction of hydra as regeneration. Regeneration is never a main mode. So what happens is the parent hydra which is there dancing. This looks like a Greek goddess, no? With all these snakes coming out. What are goddess in the parent? I was reading this
Medusa.
Medusa, right? Medusa. Yeah, upper hydra. Okay, in hydra what happens is that there is a particular position. Okay, there a small, this particular specialized cells are this. These specialized cells are going to develop a small putty buds. Okay, this new bud is going to start developing, and ultimately a new hydra. When this gets the particular level of maturation, this particular hydra is going to detach itself and survive as a new hydra. As far as amoeba, see, amoeba, leishmania, and those things which are going to reproduce using fission, you have to understand there is no natural death. There is no natural death for them. When they grow, they themselves are going to split into new individuals. So there is no natural death. Just for this unicellular organisms, there is no natural death. But as far as hydra is concerned, the parent is going to survive itself by itself, and the child is going to survive by itself. Same is the case with yeast. Okay, yeast is going to create a new bud, and a bit of cytoplasm is also going to move to this side. The bud is going to grow, and this bud is going to create other buds. So what happens is that in yeast, what happens is that the bud is going to be created in a very fast rate, very fast rate. So ultimately, it ends up creating a chain of bud. A chain of yeast cells are going to be formed because the budding is happening at a very fast rate. Okay, this is about the budding thing. Now coming to fragmentation, what you have to understand is fragmentation happens in multicellular organisms. Okay, this is it may sound like fission, but in fission this happens in unicellular organism. Fragmentation is going to happen in multicellular organisms. It's a very simple process. If you see Spirogyra is like a ribbon. When Spirogyra matures, it decides that now I am going to break because I am too long. It is going to break to multiple pieces, and each piece is going to develop into new Spirogyra. Kadam. It's such a simple way, no? We have such a complicated way of reproduction. So asexual reproduction of Spirogyra is also done. So all multicellular organisms cannot do fragmentation. Why? It would have been so simple, no? I can cut my nail piece and a new me is going to be developed from nail piece. It is not going to happen. Why? Because there is too much of complication. You have brain, you have heart, you have kidney, you have liver. Too much of complex organization is there. Levels of organization in higher organism is highly complicated. Specialization, it is extremely specialized. Multicellular organisms are extremely specialized, because of which simple breaking of the organism and creating a new organism will not happen. That again, it's a very important question. You have to elaborate on that. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now coming to regeneration. Regeneration, again, hydra is an example. Planaria is an example. Where is my regeneration? Okay, I did not. Okay, oh, I did not put the. Okay, regeneration. When accidentally some organism is getting cut, like planaria or hydra is getting cut, then each of the piece is going to develop into new individuals. This is actually done by specialized cells which are there. Okay, these specialized cells are capable of giving rise to the tissues which are not present in the body. Okay, regeneration is not the main mode of reproduction because no organism is going to wait to be accidentally cut. Okay, regeneration, examples of regeneration, it is going to happen in hydra, planaria, etc. Now coming to vegetative mode of reproduction. Is vegetative mode of reproduction applicable to animals, ladies and gentlemen? Yes or no? Is vegetative reproduction applicable to animals?
No.
Nahi, no, it is not applicable to animals. It is only applicable to plants. Okay, one important question which can come from this is advantages of vegetative reproduction. See, what is vegetative reproduction? It is a reproduction. It is a production of new plants from vegetative part, which is the reproductive part, ladies and gentlemen. Reproductive part is the flower. If the plant is coming from any other part other than flower means it can come from the stem, it can come from the root, it can come from the, what else is there? That is all. Leaf, it can come from the leaf or stem or root. Then it is known as vegetative reproduction. So vegetative reproduction is the production of new plants from vegetative parts. You have to elaborate what the vegetative parts are. It can be root, stem or leaves. Now, examples of vegetative reproduction. Vegetative reproduction happens in sugarcane, rose, grapes, etc. The most important question which can come from this is advantages of vegetative reproduction. These plants can actually fruit and flower much earlier than those coming from the seed. Okay, these can bear fruit and flower much earlier than the normal ones, and there are some plants which have lost the capability of producing seeds, like banana, orange. Some kind of oranges are there, some roses are there, jasmine. They have lost the ability to produce seeds. So these things can actually propagate with the help of vegetative reproduction. Now, what is the speciality? The speciality is that the plants are going to be genetically similar to the parent plants. Okay, so all the advantageous characters which are there in the parent are going to be retained in the kuttigal, in the bachon. Okay, so that is what is going to happen. This is the importance of vegetative reproduction. Obviously, a lot of agriculture people are going to make use of this vegetative reproduction to create genetically similar offsprings. So potato is an example. We have something known as, this is tuber. Potato is a tuber. Potato has eyes, EYES. Okay, eyes are there. These eyes give rise to baby potato plant. Okay, this is an example of vegetative reproduction, as well as bryophyllum. Very important example, bryophyllum. You have to learn the spelling, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like committing suicide when I see the different kind of spelling. It is BRI or FY or LUM or different kind of spellings you guys are putting. Don't do that. Please learn the spelling, because this is a sure shot question. Every question paper will have something to do with bryophyllum. So bryophyllum, what happens is that in the margin of its leaves, there will be vegetative buds which are created. And when the buds fall out to the ground, these buds are going to give rise to new chedi, new plant. That's it. This is also an example of vegetative reproduction. Ginger is another example. Banana is an example. Sugarcane is an example. All these are examples of vegetative reproduction. Okay, you have something to do with tissue culture also, but tissue culture is not important. It is a good to know topic. That's it. So coming to the next mode, which is spore formation. Spore formation, spores. Okay, let's see. So say, consider a bread is there. Okay, my bread is yellow in color. Let's put a red color bread. Okay, say a bread is there. There will be some things, a greenish color substance, a blackish color substance, which actually we see in the bread, which is kept in a wet and humid condition. What is it? It might be a fungus. Okay, so the structure of the fungus is generally going to be like, it will be filamentous in structure. There will be a lot of filaments which are there. So the filaments are actually known as hyphae. The filaments are known as hyphae. And when actually the algae or the fungus matures, it will have a bag-like structure on top of it. Okay, this knob-like structure is there. This is known as a sporangium. Sporangium is the bag. Sporangium is the bag which contains spores inside it. Spores are very minute organism, asexually reproducing structures. These spores are capable of generating new organisms. They are extremely minute, and generally the spores are covered with thick walls. Why do you think so? Is it because they are afraid to see outside? No, it is not because they are afraid to see outside. It is because they have to be protected from harsh climate. All right, so these spores are going to have thick walls. Example is rhizopus. You have to learn the spelling, because I myself have created a spelling mistake over here. Rhizopus is an example. Bread mold. Okay, rhizopus is also known as bread mold, M-O-U-L-D. All right, mold, M-O-L-D. Okay, so this is very important. Spore formation is important. You have to draw the diagram when they are asking for spore regeneration using, reproduction using spores. You have to draw the diagram and you have to mark it out like the filament is a hyphae, and above that you have the sporangium, and inside that you have the spores. And spores are asexually reproducing parts which are there, and they are extremely minute, and they can go to different areas in order to propagate the propagate the organism. All right, and the spores are going to have a thick cover. So all these things you have to write. Okay, give yourself 3 minutes and read through all that has been taught now. Please read it. Okay, so now we are coming to the sexual mode of reproduction. We have already covered asexual mode of reproduction. So why see, if you understand sexual mode of reproduction, it is very complicated. You know, the organism have to spend lot of energy to actually go through the process. There, see, even if you consider human beings, we have to attract the opposite sex. We have to actually carry the baby for 9 months. We have the whole terrible process of, you know, parturition is there, and you know, taking care of the baby is there. It's extremely complicated. Even in birds, if you see, there was this documentary in BBC wherein there is a particular kind of bird which actually does dancing, group dance, to attract the girls. Okay, the hero will be there. The hero is going to choreograph the whole dance, and the group dance is there. The hero does the backflip and all. So it has to spend a lot of time. It has to spend a lot of energy in order to attract the mate, and the whole process is very complicated. But still, advanced organisms or evolved organisms prefer, the evolution prefers sexual reproduction. Why does the evolution prefer sexual reproduction? Because the evolution is all about life and diversity. See, as far as asexual reproduction is considered, what did we study? Asexual reproduction always produce genetically similar bachon. Is it true or not? The variations are going to be just because of the DNA copying error. That's it. So the variation can be advantageous or variation can be disadvantageous. Disadvantageous ones are eliminated. Advantageous ones are going to survive. But variation, if the advantageous ones are going to survive, it is going to survive better. It is going to survive better. So variations, the advantageous variations are always preferable. So what evolution does is, it has to create some mechanism through which advantageous variations or the variations are going to imparted into the offspring. More and more variations should happen in the offspring. That is the intention of evolution. Okay, so now what does it do? What does the evolution do? Say, for example, there is a male which is there. Say there is a cell which is there. Okay, this cell would have the variations because of, you know, DNA copying and all those things. Say another cell which is there, this also will have its own set of variations which are there because of cell copying and all. If I mix these two, an entirely different combination is going to be created. Entirely different set of variation is going to be created. Now that is not going to be genetically similar to it is like mixing rasam and, you know, sambar. An entirely new combination. It is not like rasam, it is not like sambar, but it is like both rasam and sambar, and an entirely different curry is going to be produced. Okay, so this is the thing. Okay, so sexual reproduction is all about increasing the variations which are present in the offspring, and that is the reason why so many variety is there. I told you evolution is all in favor of variety of organisms. Even human beings, if you see, there are so many differences among human beings. That is because of this particular variation which is there. So sexual reproduction is chosen in order to speed up the variation. Why asexual variations are very, very slow. So variations can be good or can be bad. In case it is bad, it is going to be eliminated. But some of them are going to help in the survival of the species. Now, sexual reproduction, what happens is that there will be a particular cell which already has accumulated variation. Now, can these variations be, this particular male is going to produce a gamete. Say, now you guys are mature enough to understand what gamete is. These gametes itself is going to have some variations, okay, which are from the organism as well as because of the DNA copy. All right, this female is also there. Now, female is also going to have some variations, okay. Now, this particular variation, tell me something, can it be advantageous or disadvantageous, or will it be always advantageous variation?
Both.
No, actually, it will be, most of the cases, it will be very advantageous itself, because this organism is living. In case this organism is living, that means this variation has already proved itself, no? If the variation would have been disadvantageous, then the organism would die, the cell would die, right? Cell would die. Since this particular cell has already survived, that means the variation is going to be advantageous or neutral. It may not have very drastic disadvantage. That is my point. But they, of course, there will be exceptions. This cell is surviving means that the variation is either neutral or the variation is advantageous. The chances that it has an extreme bad effect on the living organism is very less. Okay. Now the variations are going to combine with each other. Then an entirely new set of variation are going to be created. Okay, so sexually reproducing organisms, what do? They combine the DNA from different individuals, thereby creating high chances of variations. Now, one important thing in sexual reproduction is that, say, retaining the number of chromosomes. Say a person has a male, normally in human beings, we have 46 chromosomes which are there, and in females, obviously 46 chromosomes which are there. So if they are going to combine as part of sexual reproduction, we end up having 92 chromosomes. Another 92 comes, and if they combine, then another 184 is going to be created. So now the disadvantage is going to be the chromosome number of the species is not going to be retained. See, humans have the chromosome number of 46. Okay, which is a characteristic feature of the humans. Okay, chromosome number is a characteristic feature of the species. Now, if we keep on adding this as part of sexual reproduction, the species chromosome number is not retained. Now, what happens is that the cellular apparatus will not be able to control the amount of DNA, of this particular DNA. Cellular apparatus loses its ability to have the control over this DNA. First thing which is going to happen is this: cellular apparatus loses its control over the DNA. Second thing is that after some time, the whole world is going to be filled with DNA, because if this is going to happen, ultimately there will be only DNA in the world. So that is not going to happen. That is not the right way to happen. So how do we retain the number of chromosomes? The retaining of number of for retaining the number of chromosomes of the species, we have special cells. That is when the special cells come into play. What are the special cells known as? They are known as gametes. They are known as sex gametes. Okay. So what happens as part of sex gametes? This is the male and this is the female. Okay. So what happens as part of gametes? When the male gamete is created, the chromosome is going to be half the number. This is going to have only 23 chromosomes. This is going to have only 23 chromosomes. Whereas when the egg is created, again, the number is going to be only 23 chromosomes. Then they fuse with each other. The original number of 46 chromosomes is going to be retained. In the zygote, the first produce of sexual reproduction as part of the fusion of male gamete and female gamete, what is going to be created? First zygote is created, and then it grows into embryo. Then it grows into embryo. Then it grows into fetus. Then it grows into fetus and then into baby. Okay, yeah, as far as humans are concerned, first is always a zygote. Even in plants and animals, we say that to be the zygote. First is always a zygote. This is how we retain the chromosome number. This is a very, very important question. All right. So why do we say that these are special cell gametes have only half the number of chromosome as that of their parents? Now, what is the cell division type which is followed? There are two types of cell division. Okay. One is mitosis and one is meiosis. I am not going to elaborate on this because you don't have to study this, but I want you to be aware of this term. Meiosis. Okay, male gametes are formed because of meiosis. Gametes are formed because of meiosis. At least write that statement. Okay, which is going to add at least half a mark. Teachers will think at least that you guys are intelligent and give half a mark. Okay, they are going to male gametes are going to be created because of meiosis. Meiosis reduces the number of chromosomes to half. Are you guys clear with that? All right. Now coming to Now coming to generally, okay, I already told you we have special cells. Special cells are known as gametes, or they can also be known as germ cells. Germ cells are going to have half the amount of DNA. Simple organisms, if you see simple organisms, the germ cells are going to be similar to each other. The germ cells, there is no distinction between the male and female. Okay, but in complex organisms like human beings, the germ cells are going to be different. Male gametes, sperms, male gametes are also known as sperm. They are going to be motile. That is, they can travel. The female gametes, she is the heroine. She is going to stay at one place. Okay, now the Raman is going to come in search of Sita. Okay, so the sperm is going to come in search of the Sita, which is the female gamete. She is going to stay in one place. She doesn't move, but she contains. She has the food. She is large. That is, a female gamete is large and contains the food, and they fuse together to form the zygote. So zygote is going to be nourished by the female gamete. Okay, now we have two more topics, which is there: sexual reproduction in flowering plants and sexual reproduction in humans. Okay, so after sexual reproduction in flowering plants, I'll give you a break of 5 minutes to read the chapter and go have some water. Okay, so sexual reproduction in flowering plants. Say in angiosperms, we are going to study only about angiosperms, because angiosperms are the species which are going to flower. Okay, the flowers are the reproductive part of the plants. Okay, so what happens? Flower has multiple whorls which are there. Okay, they are arranged around a particular receptacle. They are arranged in a receptacle, or we can call this receptacle as thalamus. Okay, the first wall which is there is the sepal, okay, which is green colored, and it protects the bud. When the flower is in the bud form, it protects the bud. Okay, this is the sepal. Okay, so when the flower grows, generally it doesn't have any function. Most of the sepals actually fall off when the flower grows, but some flowers do retain the sepal as well. Now sepals are there, and very bright colored petals are there. Petals generally attract the pollinating agents. The bees, butterfly, etc. are attracted by the bright colored petals. And so these are sepals and petals are generally accessory whorls, because they are not important. They are not directly related to reproduction. But reproductive parts are stamen and pistil. Stamen and pistil. Okay, very important. Pistil is also known as carpel. Stamen is the male reproductive part. Pistil or carpel is the female reproductive part. Stamen is the male reproductive part. Pistil or carpel is the female reproductive part. Now, the flower can be of two types. It can be unisexual or bisexual. Unisexual means single sex. The flower will be either male or a female. Flower will be either male or a female. Okay, that is, the flower is going to have only stamen. See this particular, okay, I have written cross pollination over here. I think I don't have the, okay, I don't have the picture for that. Okay, it will have only stamen or it will have only pistil. Okay, so it cannot have both as far as unisexual is concerned. Now, the example of that is papaya, watermelon are all examples of unisexual flowers. Now, bisexual flowers mean it has both stamen and carpel. Example is hibiscus, mustard are all examples of bisexual. This is a very important question. Okay, now coming to pollination. Now what happens? We are going to study what is the male part, what is the female part, and how fertilization happens. Fertilization means the male gamete is going to fuse with the female gamete. Okay, now what is the male part? Male part we already discussed that. The name of the male part is the stamen. Stamen has two parts. What is it? A filament is there and an anther is there. Anther is generally bilobed. There are two lobes. See, one lobe is here, the other lobe is over here. Bilobed anther is there. Inside the anther, there will be pollen grains. You have to understand, pollen grain is not the male gamete. Pollen grain has male gametes. Inside pollen grain, there will be two male gametes. Am I very, very clear with this? Are you guys clear with this? So, I'll explain that once again. The stamen is the male reproductive part. Stamen has a filament. This is nothing which just supports the anther. Anther is bilobed. Generally, it is bilobed. And inside the anther, pollen grains are produced. And inside each pollen grain, say this is one pollen grain, it will have two male gametes. It will have two male gametes. Coming to the female part, that is the structure of the carpel. Carpel is also known as pistil. Carpel is also known as pistil. Okay, there are three parts, which is a stigma, and the long elongated narrow part, which is known as the style, and the bulged out basal part, which is known as the ovary. Okay, stigma, style, and ovary. Stigma, style, ovary. Stigma is generally sticky. Why is it sticky? Because it should receive the pollen grain, and pollen grain should not fall off. For that reason, stigma is the landing platform for the pollen grain. Okay, so now the stigma is generally sticky, after which from stigma, style is going to connect the stigma to the ovary. Style is going to connect the stigma to the ovary, pollen grain to the ovary. Then now the pollen grain, the male gametes from the pollen grain. See, I already told you the pollen grain is going to have two male gametes. Now, when the pollen grain lands on a stigma, the pollen grain is going to transfer the male gamete to the ovary through the style. Through the style. Okay, they are going to travel through the style. Okay, style is going to provide some nourishment and all those things to the male gametes. All right. So this is what is going to happen. Now, inside the ovary, I already told you, carpel has stigma, style, and ovary. And inside the ovary, it has ovules. One or more ovules are going to be there. It can be one ovule or it can be many ovules. Ovules are going to be there. Inside the ovule will be the egg. Inside the ovule will be the egg. Okay, ovary will be there. Ovary has ovule. Ovule has the egg. This is the stuff. So the pollen anther has the pollen grain has the male gamete. Now the male gamete and the egg has to be brought together. They have to travel. Now the Raman has to travel to the Sita, right? Now what is going to happen? The pollen grain has to travel. Now who is going to help travel the transfer the pollen grain? There are many agents who are going to come to play. Dudanmar are going to be there. Who are the Dudanmar who are going to come? Messengers who are going to come and play a role. Agents, biotic agents are there, as well as abiotic agents are there. Who are abiotic agents? Wind can be there or water can be there. They help in the transfer of the pollen grain. Wind, water are examples of abiotic agents which actually transfer the pollen grains from the anther to the pistil or the carpel, okay, to the stigma. Okay, so pollen grains can be transferred using abiotic agents like wind, water. Okay, it can also be transferred. Generally, they are transferred using biotic agents. Who are the biotic people? Biotic people are, bees can help, butterflies can help, insects in general, butterflies, insects can help, rodents can help, okay, rodents can help, animals like elephant also can help. There are some plants which are only fertilized. This particular pollen transfer can happen only because of elephants. Okay, animals can also help in the pollen transfer. Okay, so these are agents which help in the transfer of pollen grain from the male part to the female part. Now pollination, this particular process by which the pollen grain is transferred from male part to the female part is known as pollination. Pollination is of two types. Self-pollination is there, cross-pollination is there. Okay, self-pollination and cross-pollination is there. Self-pollination means when the pollen grains are transferred from the anther of the flower to the stigma of the same flower. Anther is a male part. Okay, from the male part to the female part of the same flower, it is known as a self-pollination. Okay, male part is the anther, female part is the pistil or stigma. Okay, you can call that as a stigma. So when it is transferred from the anther to the stigma of the same flower, it is known as self-pollination. From the anther of one flower to stigma of another flower, it is known as cross-pollination. That's all. Okay, so we are done with pollination. Now what happens? Say a pollen grain has landed on this. Now there is all possibility. They are very, very happy. Something is going to happen. Already the pollen grain lands on this, and the pollen grain and the pistil understood that, stigma understood that, okay, we are of the same category, caste, religion, everything is same. Now what is going to happen? The pollen grain is going to germinate. Slowly it is going to show its true colors, and a small pollen tube is going to be germinated. And this pollen tube, through this pollen tube, how many heroes are there? There are two heroes, two male gametes are going to be there. They are going to enter. Let me see if I have another diagram. Yes, I have another diagram. Okay, these two male gametes are going to, go to the, where they are going to go to the heroine who is there. First male gamete is going to enter and fuse with the egg. Fuse with the egg. Okay, one of the male gamete is going to go and fuse with the egg. Okay, and male gamete plus egg is going to give you what, ladies and gentlemen? Zygote. Zygote. Second male gamete is going to go and fuse with the polar nuclei. Second male gamete is going to go and fuse with the polar nuclei, which is there. Polar nuclei is going to be in the center. Okay, and it is going to ultimately form endosperm. It is going to form endosperm. Endosperm helps in the nourishment. Endosperm help in the nourishment of the seed. Nourishment of the seed. Okay, so this is what is going to happen. So there are two male gametes. When the pollen grain is of the same type, pollen grain germinates and forms a tube. Pollen tube, which is there. And through the pollen tube, two male gametes are going to come. One male gamete is going to fuse with the egg. Second male gamete is going to fuse with the polar nuclei, which is there. First male gamete which fuses with the egg forms the zygote. Second male gamete which fuses with the polar nuclei forms the endosperm. And this nourishes the seed, okay, which is there. So now after fertilization, what happens? Zygote is going to divide into embryo. As I already told you, after fertilization, the first product is a zygote. Always it is a zygote. And then it divides to form the embryo. Now, there are multiple things. See, egg is there. Outside the egg, ovule is there. Outside the ovule, ovary is there. All right? Ovary is going to be inside. Ovary is going to be inside the female, sepals, and it is protected by sepals and petals and all those things. Okay? Now, what happens? Sepals and petals are going to be removed. Sepals and petals, they fall off because they are, their function is over. Now they are very old. Done. Everything is done. Okay. Their life's purpose is achieved. Now the ovary is there. Say I'm going to draw this ovary in red color stuff. Okay. So now the ovary is going to be converted into a fruit, and the ovule which is there is going to form into a seed coat. Okay, and this embryo actually starts developing. This is the baby plant which is going to be there. Okay, so the ovule is going to develop a thick wall, which is the seed coat, tough coat, which is actually covers the seed. Okay, now ovary is going to develop into a fruit. Sepals, petals, stamen, other parts, style, stigma, everything is going to shrivel and fall off. Now the seed which is there, that contains a future plant. Seed which is there contains a future plant. Okay. Now the seed is going to, when the right situations are there, it is going to germinate into a small seedling. It is going to germinate into a small seedling. Now the seed, what does it have? It has a plumule, upper portion. You have to draw this picture. All the pictures that I have given are very important. Okay, so you have to draw and practice. So the plumule which is there, this is going to form the future shoot. Okay, future shoot, the upper portion, stem, shoot which is there, those things which are above the ground. This is going to form the shoot, and radicle which is there, radicle is going to form the future root. Okay, this is going to form root. Plumule is going to form the shoot. Okay, pashu. Okay, pashu. Plumule is going to form the shoot, and radicle is going to form the root. And there are cotyledons which are there. They actually store food. They actually store food. Okay, cotyledons helps in the nourishment of the seedling. All right. So this is what is going to happen as far as the plants are concerned. Okay, now we are moving on to the human reproduction, but before that take a break for 5 minutes, go through this, and after that you have to You have to get up from your place, go and drink some water and come back and sit. Don't have it from water bottle. You have to go to your kitchen and have a cup, because I want you to have a break. All right. Okay. What is the time now? So we'll meet at 9:10. All right. But revise and go. Revise and go, everybody. Please do revise and go. Okay. Video on cheyama. Arinde, Abhirami, Atulya, Aditya. Aditya, you have switched on your video? Or this is your profile pic?
No,
You have, this is your profile pic, no? What good one?
I took it in school.
All right. It feels like you have switched on your video. Good one. Tony video on cheyidirikana. Abhirami. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, so now we are going to move on to the reproduction in human beings. Okay, so generally what happens is that we have actually 3 stages of life. Okay, we have juvenile stage, which is there, and the sexually reproductive phase, which is there, which is going to be the reproductive phase, which is there, and we have the senile phase. Okay, senile phase. Okay, we don't have to study the name. So what happens is that during the juvenile phase, which is this is a time when the baby is going to grow to the adult person. Okay, height and weight is going to increase. You know, the milk teeth is going to fall down and the adult teeth is going to come. And then once all those things are set properly, once a proper height, once a proper weight, everything is done for, I mean, it is stabilized, then comes the reproductive phase, then comes the sexual growth. So sexual growth is kind of similar to, there are a lot of secondary sexual characters which are going to be exhibited in the humans, not just humans, in all the organisms. Okay, so the sexual before the reproductive phase, the focus of the body, all the energy, all the drive, all the food, everything is going to be focused on actually the increasing the height, weight, or making the body very, very stable. Okay, and after once all the height, weight, everything is set, now the energy is going to go for the reproduction, because as far as evolution is concerned, they don't care about you studying social studies or science or mathematics and anything. They are just worried that will you reproduce or not. That is the only thing which evolution is concerned. So now the whole process is going to be focused on the reproduction. So what are the 2 things which are going to happen? Secondary sexual characters are going to be exhibited, sexual and the actual process of reproduction which is going to come. Now what are secondary sexual characters? Secondary growth or secondary sexual characters, some are similar to boys and girls. Now we are going to discuss only about the humans. Some are going to be similar for boys and girls, and some are going to be different for personal diary. Some are going to be very different for boys and girls. Okay, what are the things which are going to be similar for boys and girls? See, in armpits and genital area, thick hair growth is going to happen, and thin hair growth is going to happen in arms and legs, and the skin might be oily, and you all say, no, pimples, oh my god, and there are a lot of advertisements, no, pimples are going to come, and mentally you are going to be more conscious of the body. We are going to spend more time in front of mirror. What are other people going to say? Focus on the dress and focus on your fat or thin being, all those things. So you're going to be conscious about the body. There is nothing wrong in that. It's just that you should not be too tied up with your body. That's it. Okay, so these things are going to be similar for boys as well as girls. But then there are some secondary sexual characters which are exclusively for girls and exclusively for boys. So as far as girls are concerned, their breast size is going to increase. So breast is also known as mammary gland. Okay, used for feeding the child, mammary gland. And for girls, one of the most important torture which is going to happen every month is, of course, menstruation. Menstrual cycle is going to start in the girls by the age of 13, 12, 13. Okay, or from starting from 10, we can expect that anytime. As far as boys are concerned, thick hair is going to come in their face, their voice is going to crack, and penis is going to occasionally be erect, and semen is going to be production of semen or sperms are going to start during this particular time. Okay, Now, another important thing is that why all these things are required. See, one thing you have to understand is that, you can't say that, okay, my menstruation did not happen even when I am 14 years of age. Things are going to be different for different people. Or I did not get a beard, it is so slow for me. The things are going to happen at a different rate for different, it is entirely different among people. Depends on your food habits, depend on the climate you are in, and all those things are going to affect your secondary sexual characters. Now, and of course, your genetic constitution is also going to affect your secondary sexual character. Now, why all these display of lot of hair and all these things are going to happen? Why secondary sexual characters are actually present? Okay, there are two main reasons for that. One, of course, special tissues are required for the production of special cells, which are gametes. Special tissues are required. Okay. Now, second is that the sexuality must be identifiable between the mates. Okay, the male has to identify the female has to identify the male. Right, the sexuality should be displayed so that the mating, the mates are actually brought together. Okay, so first is that special tissues are obviously required for special tissues and facilities like hormone production, and all those things are definitely required for the actual process of reproduction. For that, special tissues are required, and for that, the development of special organs have to happen. Okay, and the second is that the sexuality must be identifiable among each other, and there are quite a few reasons. Okay, not just two reasons. Third is that some organs like the penis erection, this is going to help in the actual transfer of the gametes. There should be some process by which the gametes are brought together, right? So the penis erection is going to actually help in the gamete transfer. And the fourth is that mammary gland, for example, in the females, this is going to help in the nurturing of the baby. So all these things, for all these things, secondary sexual characters are required. So it is not simply a thing which is going to happen in your body just for time pass, because the body has a lot of energy. Now we can produce a lot of pimples and all those things. No, it is not going to happen like that. There are multiple reasons why secondary sexual characters are going to be exhibited. Okay, so first is that the sexuality must be identifiable. Second is that it helps in the actual transfer of the gametes, and third is for the nourishment of the baby, and fourth is for the production of special tissues which help in the production of the gametes. Okay. Now, all these secondary sexual characters are going to happen during a period of adolescence. These things are going to happen during the period of adolescence, which is known as puberty. Okay, general body growth is going to slow down, and the reproductive tissues are going to mature. Okay, now coming to the actual fertilization. Fertilization का मतलब क्या है बच्चों? बताओ. Male gamete and female gamete are going to fuse together. This is known as fertilization. After fertilization, what is going to be formed?
Zygote.
Zygote. Okay, it is not the embryo. Zygote. Z is going to be formed. Zygote is going to be formed. So fertilization can be external or internal. What is meant by external? Say, for example, frog is there. Okay, frog, both male and females release their egg and sperm outside in the water. So inside the water, they are going to fuse. This is external, outside the body of the female organism. Whereas humans are concerned, the fertilization is going to happen inside the female body. So this is internal fertilization. Okay. So there are two types of fertilization: external fertilization and internal fertilization. Now coming to the male reproductive system. Okay. We have to study male reproductive system, female reproductive system, and the reproductive health. Okay, we are going to be done in at least in 15 minutes. Okay, male reproductive system, of course, the main function is to produce the germ cells. Germ cells are known as sperms as far as males are concerned. Can you all switch on your video? Mansvi, Tony, video on ചെയ്തിരുന്ന Arvind okay, Arvind Atulya. Okay, നിങ്ങളെയാണ് ഞാൻ pin ചെയ്തു വെച്ചേക്കണം. അപ്പോൾ I want to see you all. ആണ് Arvind's pin മാറി, അതാണ് പ്രശ്നം. Okay, thank you. Okay, male reproductive system has two main broad classification. One is that the part which actually produces the sperms, which is the germ cell. Second are the accessory parts which help in the transfer of the sperm to the site of fertilization. Okay, accessory parts which actually help deliver the germ cells to the site of fertilization. So now, which is a portion which is going to create the sperm or germ cell? Obviously, it is going to be the testis. Okay, testis also has a testis. This is the testis. Okay, these are oval in shape. There are 2 testes for males, and it is kept outside the body in a sac which is known as scrotum. In a sac which is known as scrotum. Why is it kept outside the abdomen or outside the body? Because the production of the sperm requires a lesser temperature. So keeping it outside the body ensures a 2 to 3 degrees Celsius or lower than the body temperature, which is actually very advantageous for the production of the sperms. So is the job of the testis only restricted to the production of sperms? No, testis also produce a hormone which is testosterone, okay, which is responsible for the display of the secondary sexual characters and production of the sperm. Okay, testis also produce a hormone testosterone. Testis is a site of production of the male gamete. Okay, now what are it is kept outside the body in scrotum 2 to 3 degrees Celsius in order to have a 2 to 3 degrees Celsius lesser temperature. This is a very important question. Okay, now coming to the next one. What are the accessory parts which are there in order to take the sperm? Sperm is going to be produced. Okay, the sperm is going to be produced over here, ladies and gentlemen, inside the testes, in both the testes. So after the sperm is going to be produced, sperm is going to be carried by the the pipe which is there, vas deferens. It is going to be passed through. It is going to pass through the vas deferens and open into the urethra. It is going to open into the urethra. Now, urethra, if you see, it is a common opening of the urinary bladder as well as the testis, the sperm. Okay, genital opening is also going to go through the urethra. So this is a common opening as far as males are concerned. This is known as urinogenital tract. Why? Urine and the genital material, which is the sperm, is going to come through this. Now there are 2 glands which you have to study as part of the male reproductive system, which is the prostrate gland as well as the seminal vesicle. There are other glands as well. Prostrate gland and seminal vesicles are going to pour their secretions over the sperm. Okay, seminal vesicle and the prostrate gland are going to pour their secretions over the sperm, and together with these secretions they are known as semen. Together with these secretions they are known as semen. All right, now why do prostrate gland and seminal vesicle pour their secretions over the sperm? This is in order to nourish the sperm. Because sperm has a long journey, my ladies and gentlemen. They have to jump from Kerala to Sri Lanka, lot of distance to cover. So they need energy. So the same semen is going to nourish the sperm as well as it is going to lubricate. It is going to give a fluid medium so that the sperm can travel easily. Okay. So 2 reasons for which this particular secretion is there. Okay. So we'll just go through the note so that you guys are familiar with the note as well. Now testis is going to produce the germ cells or sperm, and it is also going to produce a testosterone, and testosterone is responsible for the production of the secondary sexual character, and it is placed outside the scrotum, outside the abdominal cavity. Now sperms are produced inside the testis, which is carried through the vas deferens and passed out through urethra. Urethra is a common passage of sperm and urine. Okay, now the glands which are there is prostrate gland and seminal vesicle. They provide fluidity, thereby making the transport easier. Also provides nutrition to the sperm. Now sperm, how does the sperm look like? They are very tiny, microscopic. They have a head, they have a neck, which is the middle piece, and they have a tail. Tail helps in the actual motility of the sperm, helps the sperm move through the female portion. The middle piece is full of mitochondria because it requires a lot of energy to actually travel. Okay, and the major part of the sperm is going to be the nucleus, which contains the genetic material. That is what the sperm is going to do. It is going to actually transfer the genetic material, right? So the major part is going to be the genetic material which is present inside the nucleus. So that is the story of the sperm. Now the hero's portion is done. Now we are going to the heroine. Female reproductive system. Female reproductive system, again the main part, the house of the egg, is going to be ovary. So females have 2 ovaries which are there. Okay, 2 ovaries which are there, and these 2 ovaries are linked to fallopian tube. These 2 ovaries are linked to fallopian tube. Okay, and this is also, fallopian tube is also known as oviduct. The diagram is extremely important. Both male part and female part diagrams are very important. Okay, 2 ovaries are there, inside which the egg is produced, and a fallopian tube is going to link the ovary to the uterus. Uterus is also known as the womb, and uterus is going to pass to a very narrow opening which is known as a cervix, which opens outside through the vagina. Okay, ovary is there, fallopian tube is there, and fallopian tube actually joins to the uterus, which has a narrow opening which is known as a cervix, and after which it is vagina, which is the external opening. Okay, now every month one egg. See, when a baby girl is born, it is born with thousands of immature egg in the ovary. Okay, inside the ovary, the baby girl is going to have thousands of immature egg. So during adolescence, what happens? One egg is going to mature every month. One egg is going to mature every month. So this egg is going to, this particular mature egg, it can be from any of the ovary. So one egg is going to mature and going to be passed to the fallopian tube. So what happens? Say this particular egg is matured. Matured and passed to the fallopian tube. Now this egg is going to stay only for one day. During that time, if the hero comes, if the sperm is going to be deposited in the vagina, the sperm is going to travel all the way through the cervix, and it is going to travel all the way through the uterus, through the very harsh climate, and the hero is going to come. And please note, the fertilization is going to happen in the fallopian tube. Please note, the fertilization is going to happen in the fallopian tube. Do not make this mistake. It cannot happen anywhere. It is going to happen only in the fallopian tube. Okay, and both of them are very happy because their life's purpose is done with, because the fertilization has happened. And what is formed? Zygote is formed. Zygote is going to be formed. The fertilization can happen, ladies and gentlemen, only in the fallopian tube, and only on that day. Only one day the egg is going to stay. Now the heroine is going to wait for the hero only one day. She does not have patience, after which she suicides. Okay. Now if this fertilization happens, everybody is happy because zygote is going to be formed. Now this zygote is going to roll and it is going to, actually start breaking into different cells. It is going to produce 2 cells, and then 4 cells, then 8 cells. It is going to roll and 8 cells, and then it is going to come to the uterus. And then what does it do? It embeds itself in the uterus, in the womb. It starts embedding. It goes inside the spongy lining of the uterus. Every month, what does uterus do? Uterus is always prepared, to receive the baby. Every month, uterus prepares itself for receiving the fertilized egg. How does the uterus prepare? Uterus creates thick lining so that the baby feels very, very warm and happy. It creates thick lining, and it is filled with a lot of blood vessels, lot of blood to nourish the embryo. The lining is going to thicken, and it also helps in the nourishment of the embryo. Okay, and it is richly supplied with blood in order to nourish the embryo. Okay, now what happens? Female, okay, I'll just go through this particular slide again. Female germ cell is going to be produced in the ovary. Ovary is also going to produce 2 important hormones, okay? Estrogen and progesterone. Now, one mature egg is going to be created every month from one of the 2 ovaries, and it is going to pass to the fallopian tube. And if it is fertilized, and through the fallopian tube both of the fallopian tube are going to come and join to the uterus, and after which is the cervix, and cervix is going to open through the vagina. Now when a baby child is born, it has thousands of immature egg. How does the fertilization happen? Sperm is going to travel through the vagina to the oviduct, and in the oviduct fertilization happens. Now after the zygote is formed, zygote is going to divide and roll and ultimately come to the uterus and get embedded inside the uterus. Every month uterus is going to prepare itself for receiving the fertilized egg. How does it prepare? The lining is going to thicken, and it is going to be richly supplied with blood. Okay, now what happens? Now what happens once the baby is embedded in the uterus? Okay, there is a special tissue which is going to be developed. This is a extremely important question regarding placenta. A special tissue is going to be formed, ladies and gentlemen, in order to connect the baby to the mother. Okay, this is known as placenta. This circular shape, disc-shaped structure is known as the placenta. This is actually embedded in the uterine wall. This is disc-shaped and embedded in the uterine wall. On the embryo side, see, on the embryo side, it has a lot of villi. On embryo side, it has a lot of villi. The placenta is connected to the child using the umbilical cord, okay. On the mother side, the placenta has a lot of blood spaces. That is, the villi is going to be surrounded by the blood. Why is it surrounded by the blood? So that the transfer, the nourishment of the baby happens through this. Okay, the blood has oxygen and all the nutrients. So the oxygen and nutrient from the mother's blood is going to pass to the villi, and through the umbilical cord, the baby is going to receive oxygen as well as all the nutrients, glucose, everything is transferred to the embryo. Moreover, the waste material is going to be passed from the baby to the mother's blood. This is an extremely important question. What is placenta? What is the function of the placenta is an extremely important question. Now the child is going to develop inside the uterus for 9 months, and the birth is going to happen because of the rhythmic contraction of the muscles. Okay, now what happens if the egg is not fertilized? As I told you, the life of the egg is only 1 day. Uterus obviously prepares itself for receiving the fertilized egg. How does it prepare? The lining thickens and there are a lot of blood vessels. Now everything, the lining is going to break down because the embryo is not there. No, the lining, the thick and spongy lining is going to break down. And if the egg thing is unfertilized, the lining slowly breaks and the whole lining is going to come out as menstrual blood along with a lot of mucus. Okay, and it is generally, this particular cycle is known as menstruation. This lasts for, generally the menstrual cycle is 28 days. Once in 28 days, a girl experiences menstruation and it lasts for 2 to 8 days. Okay, so the menstruation generally starts during menarche. menarche, menarche, and menstruation generally stops during menopause. Okay, menopause. All right, so this is regarding female and male reproductive part. So can you take 2 minutes to read what has been discussed till now? Now coming to the reproductive health. 2 minutes. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now it is reproductive health. Okay, reproductive health, what do we have to study? Reproductive health actually deals with a lot of things. Okay, when are we supposed to get pregnant? Like, what is the best way to get pregnant? How can we avoid pregnancy so that population overexploitation is avoided? How can you take care of mom and child, how to avoid STD, sexually transmitted diseases? All these come under the head of, this is a very big umbrella. That is, reproductive health is a very, very big umbrella. Which we have to study, but we don't have to study all these things in detail. Anyway, reproductive health actually deals with, the physical aspect, mental aspect, socially, and health aspects of everything related to the reproduction. Okay, physically, how can you go for the reproduction? How can you be healthy as far as physical, mental, social, and all the things which are related to reproduction. Okay, so reproductive health also deals with the awareness of the reproductive process as well as the organs which are involved in the reproductive process. This also actually deals with how to take care of mom and child. What are the proper diets which are there? How much of age difference can be there between children? What is the proper age to be a mom? How can you restrict the number of children? How can you avoid unwanted pregnancy? All these things come under the topic of reproductive health. There is also another set which is there, which is family planning. Okay, there has been huge drive in India itself in order to reduce the population, because there was a huge explosion of population was there during one particular period. So we had introduced, after independence, we had introduced something known as family planning. Hum do hamare do, that was the slogan of that. So we are two, and for us there should be 2 children. So there have been a lot of initiatives under this, awareness initiatives which are there in order to limit the huge population which was there in country during that time. And family planning is one of the major aspects which is still being followed. And also in reproductive health, we discuss STDs, sexually transmitted diseases. So there are two categories which we have to study in STDs. The examples are extremely important. Bacterial infections, gonorrhea and syphilis. Bacterial infections are gonorrhea and syphilis. Very important. You have to learn the examples. And viral infections are warts and HIV. Okay. The only way through which STDs can be prevented are physical barriers, which are condoms. Physical barriers like condoms. Physical barriers are the only and only ways in which STDs can be prevented. This is very important. Okay. Now, in order to avoid pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy, there are multiple ways. Okay, first is a these ways in which we can avoid pregnancy is known as a contraceptive ways. Okay, first is a mechanical barrier which is there. Obviously it is the condoms, and the condoms are generally worn over the penis, and diaphragms are worn over the vagina. This is for the girls. Diaphragms are worn over the vagina and condoms are worn over the penis. And the second method, this is a mechanical barrier, and second method is a chemical barrier. Chemical barrier generally deals with pills. Okay, they can be oral or vaginal pills. So what happens when you take a pill? Generally girls are the ones who are supposed to take the pills. What happens is that there is a change in the hormone. So the hormonal change can be of multiple type. Okay, the egg itself may not get released. Egg itself may not get released from the ovary, or the fertilization does not happen. So the pills can actually work in multiple ways. Egg itself may not be released, or fertilization is prevented. But these happen through hormonal changes. So what happens when you tamper with your hormones which are there in the body? There will be side effects. Side effects will be, there will be vomiting sensation, there will be headaches, and all those things are going to be there. There will be bloating feeling in your stomach, and all those side effects are going to be there. The side effects are not going to be major, but minor side effects are going to be there. And chemical method also has spermicides which are there, sperm killing creams, spermicidal creams and forms which are there. Okay. Now another way in which the contraception can happen is through implants. That is, inside the body of females, some implants can be kept, like copper T or loop, which can be there. So these copper T and all, what it does is they release copper ions, or some kind of hormones are going to be, chemicals are going to be released, which actually goes and kills the sperms, or it actually reduces the motility of the sperm, because of which the sperm will not be able to reach the egg. So through all these things, loop and copper T and all, we can actually stop the chances of fertilization. This again can cause irritation. This can be done only with the help of experts. We ourselves cannot do. We ourselves cannot actually implant this copper T and loop and all those things. But condoms and diaphragm does not need any external help. And another method through which this can be prevented, pregnancy can be prevented, is surgical method. Very important. You have to remember the terms vasectomy and tubectomy. Vasectomy is blocking the vas deferens. You make a cut in the vas deferens, both the vas deferens, and you tie it up. Okay, so that the sperms are not conducted properly. Okay, so vasectomy, vas deferens is being cut. So vasectomy, vas deferens. Fallopian tube is being cut, that is tubectomy, tube cut. So tubectomy, this is for the female, so that the egg is not transferred to the uterus, to the fallopian tube properly, so that the sperm cannot reach the egg. So this is tubectomy, both a surgical method. The issue is that surgical methods cannot be reverted. Surgical method cannot be reverted. So, and also there are obviously chances of infection after surgery and all, but these are okay to have it. The most important thing is it cannot be reversed. That's it. Okay. Now, there are also other ways. In case there is some unwanted pregnancy because of rape and some other reasons, then we can also choose to actually terminate the pregnancy. That is, actually abort the pregnancy. That also is there, but that is not generally desirable. Earlier, what used to happen is sex-selective abortions used to be done. That is, if it is a female fetus, then we used to abort. Then a lot of people used to abort. This is known as female feticide. This is known as female feticide. So because of which now prenatal sex determination, that is before the baby is born, the determination of sex before the baby is born. Inside the womb itself, the sex of the baby can be determined through scanning and all. That is very strictly banned. That is very strictly banned. Okay. So prenatal sex determination is banned, and abortion, sex selective abortion, is actually banned nowadays. So we are done with this chapter, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so we'll meet today